Good morning, good evening. My name's Tony Mark-Seymour. Thank you for joining us for this Noni by NewAge conference call. Today I'm with Brett West. You're the Director of Research at American Fork in Utah, and you're the perfect person to come on the call and explain a little bit about Noni and what you do over there. I know you've been in this role for over 15 years, Brett, and I'm not going to tell everyone about yourself. You can do that better than I can. So welcome to the call, Brett. First of all, Brett, tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been involved with the company and just a bit of your role. I know that you've got a team over there. I know it's a bit quiet there now with the COVID, but just give people a bit of an idea of your background and what you do.
Be happy to. So I first heard about Tahitian Noni juice back in 1996, right after it began. I was at the University of Arizona in the States here, and I was in a pharmacology, toxicology graduate research program at the university there, working on that. I was kind of finished towards the end, finishing that up. And my sister-in-law, my wife's sister, actually had been working with Morinda at the time and came down to visit us. It was during the winter, and she wanted to come south to Arizona to warm up a little bit for a break. And she brought down this juice that had a funny name called Noni juice. Hadn't heard of it before, and it had an interesting flavor. And she actually told me some of the early research that was done by Annie Hirazumi and Ralph Heineke, but kind of got things a little mixed up. And so when I first heard about it, I thought, wow, this is kind of sounds like nonsense at first. And that was my introduction to it. But my wife, though, we had just had our first child, and she decided to use it to try to help with recovery after her pregnancy and delivery of our son. And so she said it was helping her feel better. So, I trust my wife. And so I had a little more open heart towards that. Anyhow, I finished up school, and after finishing, I was looking for positions. I wasn't actually looking for work in this industry. I was looking at some other biotechnology, things like that. But this opportunity came up to work for this company, and I thought, okay, I'm going to give this a one-year trial. This is interesting. I'm going to give it a one-year trial. If I find something, if I don't find anything, I can just go move on and do something else. Well, that was back in '97 when I started. And so I've been here for almost 23 years now doing research. So I first heard about it at the University of Arizona about Noni, but I really started learning about it when I worked for the company, and I've been doing this for a long time. So we found many, many things about Noni that validated a lot of the traditional benefits, found some really cool things. And so there's a little bit of the background on how I learned about it education-wise. Again, I studied a couple universities and have degrees in molecular biology and pharmacology and toxicology. So I'm interested in health and safety, how that occurs in the body, but also how it occurs at the molecular level. And my role here, it's evolved over time. When I first began, I was hired as, my official title was research chemist and toxicologist. And I actually, one of the first projects I was given to do was to look at something called damnacanthol. It's kind of, I'm not cussing, so don't worry about that, but it's the name of a compound in the roots. And a researcher in Japan had actually discovered this in Noni roots and found it had some potential anti-cancer activity. My job was to find out if this was present in the fruit. Well, it turns out it wasn't in the fruit, but we did find a lot of other phytonutrients, phytochemicals in the fruit that are really good for you. Iridoids, some of you may be familiar with that term. Iridoids, things called lignans, flavonoids and scopoletin, and lots of things actually in the fruit. So but that damnacanthol research was one of the first things I did. And another one I did early on is I had some training also in biostatistics and epidemiology and kind of this statistical and data analysis. You can collect from large numbers of people. So at the time, Kelly Olson had people, Ann was one of these who probably sent in these testimonials of what they felt Tahitian Noni juice was doing for their health. So I had this large stack of paper or faxes. You know, back then it was fax. We were still doing things by fax. I had all these faxes that had come in with people stating what they felt Tahitian Noni juice had done for them. So I took them, I went through each one of these, and there was a large number of them. And I cataloged them, you know, categorized them by health effect, and then did some statistical analysis. Then I went into the traditional medicine databases and went into some of the old ethnobotanical books, things that existed before Morinda, before there was any real public interest in Noni at the time, pre-1996. And read about what the traditional uses of Noni were throughout different parts of the world. For instance, you had some uses in the Caribbean. These people in the Caribbean, a long time ago, you know, 100 years ago or so, wouldn't have been talking to people in French Polynesia. You know, there was no internet to compare. It's whatever they observed the fruit being useful for, they had recorded in these studies. The ethnobotanists, you know, are scientists that study botany and then go and find out what people use plants for in different cultures. So they had recorded these. Anyhow, I compared the statistical analysis of the new Morinda customers, Tahitian Noni juice consumers, to the traditional uses, the pre-marketing uses, and they actually lined up really, really well. A lot of the main benefits in both groups matched up well. So that was a convincing thing as well. Then interesting thing, our first laboratory was in St. George, Utah. That's down in the southern part of this state. It's deserty there. Looks more like something at Alice Springs, you know, red rock, red dirt, things like that. And it's dry, hot. So our lab was there, and we had some Noni leaves shipped in from French Polynesia. We were beginning some research on the leaves as well to look at its benefits and what we could do to develop products that might be beneficial to people for their health with the leaves. Our operations people in Tahiti, though, packed the leaves wet and shipped them to the States wet. And so that caused them to arrive in less than ideal conditions. So we kind of tried to salvage what leaves we could for research, pulled them out, cleaned them up, set them out on rocks. There's this little rock, I guess you'd call it rock garden, you know, decorative rock area near our building. Laid them out on there under the desert sun to dry them out. Then at the time I only had one vehicle. My wife came to pick me up from work at the laboratory, and she looked at those leaves and said, what are those? I said, those are Noni leaves. She explained to me that, now my wife, before we were married, she had actually had done some humanitarian work in the Dominican Republic, what we call welfare, health-related type work. And she had been a nursing student, and she had been assigned out into what they call the campo, the countryside, and had remembered a family that she met with that had, they were poor, they didn't have access to a lot of medicine, and she visited them one day, and the mom of this family had a leaf pulled across her forehead, and she asked her what she was doing. She said, I have a terrible headache. And this leaf helps with that. My wife thought, oh, these poor people don't have good medicine. It's too bad they have to rely on bush medicine. You know, she didn't understand a lot about that. They don't teach that in nursing school per se. And she felt bad for him. But then when she saw these leaves sitting out on the rock, these Noni leaves, she said, that's what that lady was using on the Dominican Republic, in that island in the Caribbean, for her headache. So I actually used her as a source, a reference, when I was doing some research on Noni leaves and chemical and biological activity research, and published it in a journal. I cited my wife as a source of a traditional use in the Dominican Republic for that. So over the years, we've done work like this. That's kind of a lot of what I do and have done over the past 2 decades. Develop products based on the benefits we see from Noni, the different parts of the plant.
So you also, as well as doing your own in-house research, you also outsource some of the research as well, Brett?
Yes, we have. We've done a lot of work with universities. One of the biggest projects we had was at the University of Illinois College of Medicine here in the States. And we did some research with people who are heavy smokers. And heavy, I mean heavy users, heavy consumers of tobacco. They smoke a pack or more a day. And we enrolled them in a clinical trial where we actually I made a placebo, a Tahitian Noni juice placebo. I actually had the grape and the blueberry in there, but no Noni in there, just a strong cheese flavor. You know, way up in Queensland and up in Darwin and places, one of the traditional names for Noni that grows in that area, they called it the cheese fruit because of that aroma. So I found a cheese that actually mimicked it well, put it in there. That was our placebo. We had Tahitian Noni juice. We enrolled about over 300 heavy smokers in this trial. We assigned them to drink to either Tahitian Noni juice or the placebo, and we drew blood at the beginning of the trial, had them drink either product, either the placebo or TNJ for 30 days, and then drew blood again. And with that analysis, we were able to do things like look at free radical levels in the blood and also DNA damage in the lymphocytes, which are the white blood cells. Those are white blood cells, part of the immune system. We saw that those drinking the placebo had no significant change in free radical levels. The DNA damage still occurred at the same level as the beginning of the study. But those drinking Tahitian Noni juice actually saw significant declines in different types of free radical damage in the blood, as well as the DNA damage was reduced in their white blood cells. So that's a big impact. So this was a study we were showing how it protects the body against a very aggressive form of chemical damage in the body, which is from cigarette smoke, and protecting the health and DNA of these white blood cells, part of the immune system.
That research is on the noniresearch.org website?
Yes, sir, it is. Yes, it is. It's
So,
also available on pubmed.gov. There's a U.S. National Library of Medicine maintains a database of medical research that's used, everybody uses that in the world. And a lot of those studies are available as full copy papers for those who really want to get into the details.
Anyone that can't get off the addiction of nicotine should be taking Noni juice then?
Certainly, it would help. And those who live in cities, who are exposed to any pollution, there's still the same type of chemical classes.
So a lot of the research that the company has done has been on the TNJ, the original product. What about the new Max? Has there been a lot of research, because that has obviously a higher amount of iridoids, and I'll get you to talk about the iridoids in a second, but what about the Max? Because we noticed that is a great product too.
Yeah, we did a couple studies with Max. One of the more interesting ones, since I mentioned biostatistics, epidemiology, and so forth, we did a study it involved TNJ, Max, Extra, these products, but it was in Japan. We had basically in 10 cities, we collected data from about 4,000 people. We were looking at something called advanced glycation end products. Many of you are familiar with that. We're measuring that in these people, and we got information on their intake, daily iridoid intake, Max being the highest level, and we saw significant declines in AGE levels over time compared to their peers of their age, because AGE levels go up as you get older. But we saw big declines in that with Max. We also did some antioxidant research where Max did have really excellent antioxidant properties and also impacts on weight loss and maintaining weight loss. We did this with the Institute of Nutrition with the Russian Federation, because we were actually trying to get an approved health claim in Russia for our products. And we had to go through the government and do certain tests there and present that and get it approved through the agency that oversees medical and health and so forth of foods and dietary supplements.
Mm-hmm. So can we just talk briefly about the iridoids, because this is what separates Noni from many of the fruits out there, the high levels of iridoids found in this particular fruit.
Exactly. Yes, I'd be happy to. So that's one of the interesting discoveries we made, was the iridoid content of Noni. Apples, oranges, bananas, grapes, berries, these are all good for you. They have phytochemicals in there, phytonutrients called flavonoids, and sometimes they're called anthocyanins. They're very common types of phytonutrients in these fruits, and Noni has them. But what these other fruits don't have are something called iridoids. Those phytonutrients are very unique to Noni, very unique to these other ingredients we put in Max. And that's what really separates Noni. You can't, the bioactivity, the biological properties of these iridoids is so broad. That's why Noni has such a broad range of benefits and effects that people will say they experience. We've also been able to demonstrate in human clinical trials. In fact, iridoids are not found typically in fruits. You'll find them in some medicinal herbs, Not a lot of them, but some of them will have them. But for it to occur in a fruit is very unique. They are safe. They are beneficial to your health. We know that from all the research we've done. But it really does separate noni from other what are called super fruits. Noni really is a super fruit.
And it's also non-toxic. And a lot of these herbs that are sold, if you take them in large amounts, they can be toxic to the body, correct? And I know when you launched the product into Europe, you had to go through stringent tests to get the approvals in the EU. And there was many tests to prove that this product is non-toxic. So what can you say about that, Brett? I know there's people want to know how much can I drink which is safe.
So we've had people drink a lot in the clinical trial safety. We did one clinical trial just for the sake of demonstrating safety, and we had people drinking 3/4 of a bottle of Tahitian Noni juice a day, and there were no changes in this study. This was again part of the European Union approval, and we also had to go through this in other countries as well to get approval and show it's a safe new food because it was new to those countries. And we've been through this more than once in demonstrating data and doing additional studies to confirm the previous ones. But again, in this human clinical trial, we actually did this one in the UK, and they were drinking 3/4 of a bottle of Tahitian Noni juice a day. And in this study that we measured everything on them. Think of the most comprehensive physical you're going to get when you go in and see the physician. We did ECGs, heart function, drew blood, urine analyses, everything. Assessed their vital signs, and everything checked out just fine. We're drinking those high amounts of Tahitian Noni juice. So again, it's good for you, and it also won't harm you. And you can drink a lot of it if you want to.
So we talked about you talked about the noni leaf. So what sort of products have you got that have this noni leaf? Because all parts of the Morinda Citrifolia plant have certain benefits, correct? And from the roots to the tree itself, to the seeds, to the leaf. So what products have the different types of the plant in it?
So we put in what we call noni leaf extract and noni leaf juice that we make from it, and we put it in a lot of our topical products. Noni leaves were used extensively topically, but people also did eat noni leaf. We have a noni leaf tea. People did use the noni leaf as a vegetable. It's actually high in vitamin A. It's got a good source of all the essential amino acids if you want to just eat the leaf. In fact, if you're marooned on an island and you find a noni tree, you could live quite a long time on this. Eating the fruit for a lot of vitamin C, eat the leaf for vitamin A, potassium, and good protein source. But one of the things we were interested in the leaf for topical use was this wound healing properties of it, and also some anti-inflammation properties. Again, I'm not making an official claim here, but we do have the wound healing properties, and that's based on some compounds called pyrophosphorates. It's a long name. These things are beneficial in helping your skin heal. And so we've done research, identified those, did the tests for them. In fact, and then we also used to have a noni leaf spray. The noni leaf serum is kind of our premier leaf product. It's in the highest concentration. And we had a noni leaf spray, and I remember people using this in Tahiti on one of our old outrigger trips when they would go and get too much sun, and you could spray it on there and it would take away the red nicely and make you feel a lot better. So there's an example of the leaf.
Okay, so the Tepawema skincare products have the noni leaf in them?
Yes, we use that in there with those as well. We have noni seed as well, extract is noni seed oil, noni leaf extract, noni leaf juice in there. All have these additional benefits in improving skin health.
So you're continually doing research there with your team there in America, Brett. So what are you currently working on in the research department?
So right now we're in a cycle right now of busy formulating. I had been doing some work in the lab on what we call the endocannabinoid system. This is a new system. It's discovered that it was actually an actual physiological system of the body in the 1990s. And we had made some discoveries on the influence of noni on this endocannabinoid system back in the mid-2000s. We published a paper in 2008 investigating the immune system and properties of noni and its mechanisms of action. And then we did some recently where last year I published a paper on the impact of Tahitian Noni fruit juice on the endocannabinoid system. The endocannabinoid system is sort of a regulatory system. It sort of controls the function, helps modulate the activity of these other physiological systems of the body, such as your nervous system, your GI tract, circulatory system. So it kind of helps control that activity. So that's some of the more recent things that I've been doing. We're also going to look at leaf properties, which I've already done. And but
Can I ask you also about CBD, because that's the end thing at the moment around the world, and you buy shares in CBD companies and it's huge. And I know the company's been doing some research in this area as well, and combining Noni, which has particular health benefits, and CBD has a different range of health benefits, and you can combine both. What's your research in regards to the differences between CBD and Noni?
Okay. So one of the ways that CBD works is it inhibits. Well, let me explain this. So I mentioned the endocannabinoid system. There are two chemical messengers, the endocannabinoids in your body, two main ones that are signals that are operating in this endocannabinoid system, and your body responds differently to these two endocannabinoid chemicals. There are enzymes that break them down. So your body will produce them, and then there's enzymes that will tear them down and break them apart. And sometimes you have too much activity in these enzymes, and so they're breaking down these endocannabinoids. So one of these endocannabinoids might help control an inflammatory response. Another one would, help have a big impact on mood and have some effect on the central nervous system there. And so, having optimal levels, what they call endocannabinoid tone, is important. CBD inhibits one of these enzymes that breaks down one of these endocannabinoids. Noni inhibits the other enzyme that breaks down one of these other endocannabinoids. So you kind of get a balanced action from both of them. So what they do is they can inhibit the activity of these enzymes, keep good endocannabinoid tone, so your body's functioning well.
So it's good to use both these products, or can we combine these products together?
Yeah, you can combine them together. That's what we've been doing, is producing products that use them together. And depending on which country you're in, we can be more aggressive or less aggressive depending on which one you're in. So
yeah, I know there's some stuff you can't really tell me, and that's fine. And I won't push that envelope, Brett. But I know some people are confused because we do have the hemp range of products here in Australia that the company has produced. Can you just quickly, for people out there, explain the difference between the CBD and the hemp?
So they're both from the hemp plant. The hemp oil it's a really good oil. It comes from the seed of the hemp seed, which is actually considered has a status as a food in many countries around the world. And so from a safety standpoint, just fine. CBD, the hemp seed oil is from the seed. The hemp, the CBD is actually from the rest of the plant, the hemp plant. It's extracted from a different part of the plant. And so there's different regulations on that. But you'll find that some of the hemp seed oil will have a certain amount of CBD, varying amounts. But the hemp seed oil, where it's been requested that we put it in with our products, we use that also. It's got good properties as well. And so that's kind of where we are, depending on which market we're in. We're using the hemp plant, but there's, like I said, a lot of benefits. The fatty acid profile. So the oils are made up of what we call fatty acids. You have, without getting into too much chemistry, they have different impacts on the skin and on the body, and they can interact with the skin. It maintains skin health. Some of them condition the skin and absorb through the skin, and that's kind of what we're doing there, is offering that for people who want access to those hemp products as well, with Noni, combining with the Noni seed oil, the Noni leaf extract, things like that, as we go further along and develop these products further. The existing products are based solely on hemp right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, we seem to be getting some good results with the hemp products here in Australia from initial testing, and I'm very pleased where that's going. So we can get the same sort of benefits as the CBD as using the hemp oil, correct?
Yeah, it depends on what you're looking for as well. And from the skin standpoint, they're beneficial to the skin, both of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're using them. So it's kind of a newer, like you said, everybody's talking about it right now. It's still a new industry, actually. It's only recent years that people started getting interested in this, and so this is evolving over time. As we're able to, we continue to formulate accordingly and provide new products and products that improve benefits that are available to people.
Mm-hmm. And why do you think Noni is the superior plant in the world from your perspective? There's so many different medicinal fruits out there and super fruits, etc., that claim to be super fruits. Why is Noni, in your opinion, the number one superfruit?
Well, let me explain it. I don't want to denigrate Noni, but from a flavor standpoint, it's not really that attractive. Those who are familiar with it. And so the fact that the Polynesian people, as they went from island to island, took the trouble to put it on their canoes and take it to a new island tells you a lot, right? Mm. It's not like an apple, which tastes really sweet, grape, which tastes sweet as well. So there's a lot of history there. Again, Noni, there's a guy named Dr. Arthur Whistler. He was affiliated with the University of Hawaii, and he was an expert in Polynesian herbal medicine. He wrote a book called Polynesian Herbal Medicine, and based on all his studies, he made the claim, he stated that Noni was the most important plant for health and so forth, prior to the arrival of the Europeans. We've seen this with our research, that it's a broad range of effects. Noni is safe. Noni has a broad range of health benefits, and it's got a phytonutrient profile that is very unique, much different than other plants. So when something is used widely as food and medicine, it tells you something. And when people spent so much effort to take it with them when they had limited space and resources, traveling from island to island, that tells you a lot. And so why is Noni superior? Because of its phytonutrient profile and the history, and as well as the research that shows its broad range of benefits in the body and what it can do. You don't have to be sick to take it. It can help you maintain your health. Those who need a little extra to help improve their health, it has things in there to benefit the body.
And also just quickly want to explain, because I've been to Tahiti and I've seen the manufacturing facility over there. And the great thing about Noni by NewAge is they control the whole process. So they employ the pickers there. They put it down into a puree, which is sent to American Fork, and then it's shipped out around the world. So we control the whole process. And so people ask, why should I buy this product compared with another product, whether it's Tongan Noni or Hawaiian Noni. We have the whole process covered from tree to bottle. And so the quality control of this product is second to none. And I know that we were talking earlier before we started the call, you talked about your ongoing testing to make sure that standard is met in every single bottle that's sent out of the company.
That is true. We do a lot of quality control. The standards that have been set around the world for Noni are based on Tahitian Noni juice, government standards on our product. I just one thing wanted to add to that. Why is Tahitian Noni better? We've actually done a phytochemical analysis of Noni fruits from different locations around the world, and the one that had the highest iridoid content, those samples came from French Polynesia. So right there's the test.
Yes, it is grown right around the world in tropical parts of the world. And yes, Tahiti is out of the way. So for the company to select Tahiti, they obviously did their research to realize that particular fruit grown in that area was the highest nutrient count. So that's fantastic to know. We have the best Noni available, and when we control the whole process, so we can be assured of high quality product every time.
Yes.
I am going to open up, Brett, just for a couple of minutes. We've just gone past the 30-minute mark, but I just want to know if anyone out there has just a couple of questions for Brett, and I'll just have a look at the chat. And if you've got a question, I'll ask Brett. So just put it in the chat box if you've got a particular question you want to ask Brett. Is there anything else you would like to add, Brett, while we're waiting for any questions to come through on Noni by NewAge, the merger that's just happened with NewAge and Morinda? Anything that you'd like to add?
Spent a lot of effort in quality control, manufacturing, doing things right, and we've helped improve that side of our retail side of the new merged business and other things. And so so not quite business as usual, busier than usual.
I really appreciate it. I know you have other meetings and other Zoom calls you have to attend to, so I won't hold you up any longer. Thank you very, very much for joining us this morning. I really, really appreciate it, and all the best.
Okay. Have a good day, everybody. Thanks.